most of us do not enjoy having somebody push us. And strangely enough, in spite of the fact that we don't like it, there are times when you and I become guilty of doing that very thing. We push the people in our lives rather than use an alternate method of getting what we might need or want. There might be a couple of reasons for that. One is that that's the way we know. That's the way we've been treated. And so when it comes time for us to motivate others, even though we don't like being pushed, sometimes we do what we know instead of learning a new behavior. Another reason is that pushing people seems to be more efficient. You see, if they're not doing what we want and we can just speed up the process, push them to do it, we may think that we're being a good manager or a good companion. And a lot of times people get rewarded for getting things done rather than for creating an environment that people want to stay in. So very often pushy people get promoted and then quality subordinates move on. They don't want to work there anymore because they don't like to be pushed. But let's not try to change the world here. Let's just try to change ourselves. So for a moment, let's talk about how you and I can develop a different skill set so that we can still be effective. We can still get cooperation, but do it without being assertive in a negative way. Do it without being bossy and pushy, because that's going to make our companionship much more enjoyable in the long run. Now, an excellent book that articulates the value of an alternate approach is called Bringing Out the Best in People. And it's by Aubrey Daniels, and it's just a wonderful read where he gives examples of how not to do positive reinforcement and how to do it properly. He points out that many people give up on it because they don't do it right, and they say, oh yeah, I tried that, and it didn't work. Well, what you tried wasn't really the best way of cementing positive behaviors. But he explains very, very clearly how to do it. So I recommend that book. If you have the patience for a deep dive into the subject, Bringing Out the Best in People by Aubrey Daniels is a wonderful read. But a much shorter book is called The 1 Minute Manager. And we want to talk about the principles that are articulated there for just a moment. The authors, Ken Blanchard and Spencer Johnson, give a 3-step process to be effective in managing other people. And the steps are, first, give clear direction. Second, catch the person doing it right. And third, and only rarely ever implemented, is going ahead and catching them doing it wrong. Now, most of us skip to step number 3. We come in and we find that person that we're dealing with, whether it's a work subordinate or somebody in our social circle or even in our family, we catch them doing it wrong, and that's the first thing we do, is just point out, like, you're not doing that right. That's not what I want. See, that's actually step 3. And the writing team of the 1 Minute Manager says that we very seldom ever have to go to step number 3. So how does it work then? Number 1, give clear direction. If we've given the best direction we know how to give, and we come back and the other person is not doing what we've asked them to do, instead of scolding, instead of pushing, what we do is we take full responsibility. We say, oh, I didn't explain that well enough. Now, that might be hard. We might have to put on our humility because maybe we feel we did explain it. We not only explained it, but we demonstrated it perfectly. But by taking the responsibility back and saying, I didn't explain it well enough, that gives us an opportunity to explain it again. And explaining it again, even if it's tedious, is much more palatable, much more enjoyable than scolding. So rather than scold, take responsibility and say, let me explain that to you again. How many times should we do that? As many times as we possibly can. In the interests of long-term good relationships, keep on explaining it until you catch them doing it right. Now, most people, when they're hired to do a job, have already been determined to be qualified, and most of them don't start out wanting to disappoint. They want to please. They want to do it well. So our being patient and waiting while they learn to do it well is actually a tremendous vote of confidence in that person. It makes our workplace a more desirable place to work. And the same principles apply in our social settings. If we take responsibility for getting the results we want, then we will not rush to negative feelings or scolding behaviors. So that will immediately open up some possibilities for us. The next thing is to reinforce good behavior. We want to do it quickly, and we want to do it in a way that the person will appreciate. So one size does not fit all. Some people are highly motivated by money, but in our social setting, that's inappropriate. Your friend does something you like and you pay him for it. You say, oh, here's a $20 bill. Thanks for being my friend. See, that's not the best way. But what we can do is take note of what people do appreciate. Compliments, small gifts, big gifts, other things besides just a monetary reward. And if we get really good at acknowledging the behaviors we want repeated, doing it quickly, and doing it in a way that the other person will respond to and appreciate, then we're going to find that this method is actually very valuable. It does work. It does require patience, though. And we probably are wise to go ahead and develop that as well, because impatience and pushiness go hand in hand. Rewarding the positive requires a longer commitment to the relationship. Sometimes we have to be prepared to wait for weeks, months, even years. But what a tremendous vote of confidence in another person if we're willing to wait while they grow into the person that we need them to be. So keep that in mind, that just because something doesn't work initially doesn't mean that it will never work. So these are some reminders about how you and I can reinforce the positive instead of being pushy and scolding as our primary tools to motivate. We do need confidence, though, that positive reinforcement works. And one of the most convincing cases that we can find comes from animal training. So if you lack confidence that positive reinforcement is really valuable, here's another video that you might find informative. Check it out.